This episode is brought to you by Guthrie Rocha Properties, a real estate agent that's all about exceeding expectations. Now, I've personally used Guthrie Rocha to buy and sell several properties here in Portugal, and I've always found their proactive customer service is really second to none. They have an expert international team, and they'll help you find a perfect beach villa, apartment, countryside farm, or whatever you want. Pedro was actually a very early guest in episode 2 of Podcast Portugal, and I really recommend these guys. Click the link in the show notes to connect with Guthrie Rocha Properties. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. I'm joined here today with Nuno Viegas, also known as Metis. He's a Portuguese artist born in Faro and raised in Quarteira, founder of the art collective Polychromia Crew. Nuno started his artistic journey with graffiti in 1999 and now exhibits in major international art galleries all over the world. Nuno, big welcome.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Welcome. I'm going to fire in with the first question. I just want to sort of get to grips with what drew you to graffiti in the first place as a youngster.
So graffiti came to my life by influence of my peers. When I was a teenager, my crew was a BMX team, basically, from Quarteira. Within this BMX riders, they were like my closest friends, and they introduced me to a lot of stuff. I used to listen to to punk rock, to metal, and they introduced me to hip hop. Even them being themselves musicians in rock and punk rock bands, they introduced me to hip hop, and I got to know about hip hop through them. And they also introduced me to graffiti.
So I don't know how much you can speak of the beginnings and the early beginnings of graffiti, because in some forms of graffiti, it's not always legal, correct?
Yeah, definitely. That's how we started. It was definitely not legal. Nowadays, I'm much more mature as a person and as an artist, as a individual who belongs to a society. But still, I cherish the roots of graffiti, of which vandalism, in a way, takes big part of.
Yeah,
and that's how I stepped into it. It was through illegal means, let's say.
Yeah.
But never through in a mean way. So I never ever meant to be disrespectful towards anyone, nor mean. I never meant to be bad to anyone. So I always had my sort of my own code of how to do my illegal activity per se. Yeah, for me, it was always very important that I would never go over private property, let's say. So I would always go for something that was public, and a little portion of it would belong to me in a way. Yeah, I would never paint like just a private building. But this is something that I was had on me, we're doing it illegally, but for me, there are some do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And I always had my red lines very well defined, let's say, and I still have.
It's very interesting, and I haven't really thought too much about this before, but the idea of graffiti is the same as tagging. So is it like you said something there really interesting, like you take ownership of part of something. So do you think like tagging is a part of trying to belong to something, or tagging is trying to show a voice or show yourself because you feel you are unknown, not part of society yet? No, I haven't really thought about it before. I'm just trying to get to grips with the reasons. Do you think that
very simple, and I define graffiti in a very basic way. And for me, graffiti, it's all about writing your name as much as you can and as many places as you can. and it's all about that. It's about writing your name. So it's a very egotistical movement in a way,
Is it a
because at the
is it a
same time
competition
it's not.
amongst other taggers, or it's?
Yeah, there's definitely competition because you always want to be the one who tags the most or who gets known the most for being out everywhere. I think have you been to Algarve?
Yeah, I
Uh,
was just reading. I literally just starting to open up your website because I forgot the name of the tag, but there is one particular tag that I see everywhere in the Algarve, and I'm just trying to open up to see who it was.
in Algarve, we have a very good example of what a graffiti writer is, in my perspective, because even within our community, there is some people that defend it one way, some others defend it another way. I put it very clean and simple. Graffiti is about writing your name and expanding your name, and getting known within the community by being someone that is out there, who's gotten up that much that got it's impossible that you do not notice him. And in Algarve we have Sen, and Sen is someone that you will see everywhere, and and that's just because he just paints every day, and he paints everywhere, from one tip of Algarve to the other one, east, west, north, south, everywhere you go, every little road, every main road, like secondary, third road, like you'll see a Santa tag.
and
And that's insane, the proliferation of his tags is crazy.
That's
And
crazy.
that for me is a
I'm
good
going to get the
example of,
listeners looking out for some of these tags now that you're mentioning. So they'll be like, ah, yeah, I
yeah,
heard about it. So who else is quite prominent in the Algarve?
I don't want to be talking about a lot of names. I think Sen
Ah,
is a very, very good reference. Is
yeah.
someone that I've been there since his beginning, and I've seen him rising as a writer,
Mm.
and he's someone who I have big respect for. And but yeah, I think he's a good example. But there are a few others that if you're aware and if you're going by, you'll see some you might not read, but you can say like, oh, I've seen this already, and I've seen this already.
Hmm.
There's a few. There's not many that are like this active. I think San is definitely like a special kind of graffiti writer. Or yeah, for me, he's a top guy. Yeah, for sure. And he's been doing it, and it's for love. Like he's not the guy who's getting rich with his practice.
Yeah.
And he still keeps on doing it like every day, everywhere. Yes, he's crazy, man.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the other one. There was another guy, I think he came down from Lisbon, and he was quite prominent. Um, I'm trying to remember his name, his tag. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
He came from Lisbon.
Yeah, he came down from Lisbon. Um,
But is it something recent? Is it an
no, I think it was
older?
the early days. I think I think I read somewhere that he was quite an influence on you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even though I started painting in '99, which is, if you put it side by side with like the graffiti's history and its beginnings in the U.S. In the early '70s, I think, late '70s, early '70s, somewhere. Um, the '90s is already like '99 is already past like 20 years or more since the beginning of graffiti. And but because Portugal is always a bit delayed, and the delay in an era that internet wasn't there and everything, which like information was circulating much slower. Um, Portugal was delayed, and Algarve was even more delayed compared to Lisbon, for example. And because of that delay in trends, I was lucky enough to be like generation like 1.5 in a way. I don't say that I'm like the first generation, but I was there with them
Yeah.
in the beginnings. And one guy that came from Lisbon was is a guy named Sergio, At the time, he was tagging Jam,
Yeah,
but he
that's
went
it.
by
Jam, that's right.
many tags. The last one being Audio was his last known
Right.
tag. And yeah, he was a huge influence for sure. Yeah, he basically there was already some activity, but he brought it in a way that everybody wanted to do it, and everybody wanted to be like him. And
Hmm.
yeah, he was definitely a big inspiration for all of us down here.
So how does it take the leap from I mean, basically sometimes with the tagging you can just see it's a very rushed, hurried technique to tag a building or to tag a public wall or something. And then then now I'm seeing your work. It's not like that at all. It's taken a more figurative and visual. It's not just a sort of a tagging what we would call sort of traditional graffiti, which is basically sprayed. Yours is much more technical. It's much more clean. How does it go from that to what you do now?
Uh, it's a huge leap in time from one point to the other. But when I started painting in '99, was all about writing my name, so I was just painting letters.
Mhm.
In 2001, we founded the Polychromia crew, and with Polychromia, the mentality towards graffiti started shifting. So we were like, okay, we're just bombing, we're just painting our name and our crew's names everywhere, but we want to do like productions. We want to be in a place for a weekend and not be bothered and not bother anyone, and have like just plenty of time to develop a bit more beyond just tagging and writing our names, that we can play with more colors, that we can play with our creativity. And this is when we started like invading empty abandoned spaces. And Olhão was a big place for this because Olhão has a lot of warehouses that are kind of abandoned, closed for many, many years. And we would just get in and spend like as much time as we wanted there. And this was the beginning of starting to developing creativity. But I was just still painting letters, painting my name. And I then continued my life. The only link with creativity was just graffiti in a way, but it wasn't the main focus. And I was studying IT in high school. And then I went to university to do computer engineering. And after 4 years, I've quit. And this line that was there all the time, uh, connecting me to my creativity, which was graffiti, led me to pursue university and study visual arts. And this is the first time that I go and explore my creativity beyond graffiti.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I studied for 5 years. I did a master's degree, and I never painted in my university studies. It was only after almost a year after I finished my studies, I moved to Rotterdam to do an Erasmus internship. And I found a guy that was kind enough to open extra room to accept me as his intern. His name is Timon Delat, and he welcomed me in his studio. And he is just a traditional painter. He was already doing some mural painting as well, and he got me into the figurative painting that I'm doing now. So through some exercises that I had to do within the internship, I realized that I had a skill there for figurative painting that I had no idea that I was mastering.
Yeah,
And
you're quoted in saying that you felt that you couldn't draw.
yeah, and I can. That's like the for me it was amazing to realize, yeah, I can paint. I cannot draw, but I can paint, and I don't need to know how to draw to be able to paint. And it's very it, now I look at it and yeah, it's basic. It's like it's super logical. But for a long time, the fact that I couldn't draw in a way, it inhibited me from trying to paint because I thought that the two were interlinked, but they're totally not.
Hmm.
So
So you
yeah,
see
I can
things
paint,
more in
but
color tones as opposed to lines, perhaps.
the thing is, like, to paint is just to paint. Is just to put paint on something. To draw is totally different. To draw, you have to create from scratch the lines and the shadows and all of that. It's much more complex than just painting. Painting, you're looking at the reference and you're copying it. The thing is, I love photography. It's something that I got from my father, and I've always been into photography. And I use photography to produce my sketches, to produce my references.
Mhm.
And so I skip the drawing, but I draw with photography in a way. So
Okay.
I create all my references through photography, and then once I have the final sketch, because I take like many photos, and then I do like a huge photo montage, and that photo montage is my sketch to paint as a last stage, let's say.
It's interesting. That's it's
Yeah.
nice to hear how you approach the art in a completely different way like that. You find your own way of doing things.
Many artists do it like this, like the advent of photography changed like the whole art game, I would say. It opened doors to a lot of amazing artists who were like trapped by the fact that they couldn't draw.
Hmm.
It's just
And because I'm always wondering, um, when you're doing big murals, you're having to use like a platform, like a crane.
yeah.
And because when I paint, I'm always having to move backwards to look at it, and then I move forwards to do the action. Then I move back, I'm trying to think like how you are doing these really really big murals, and you're doing a figurative. How you don't need to come back down the crane, look back just to make sure you have the proportions correctly. Um,
Well, basically for the it's all just a trick in a way. So you have a trick to expand your drawing to whatever size you want, and that's actually a very basic trick. And well, back in the days, they would do like the squares grid. So
mhm.
1 centimeter on paper would be 1 meter on a wall, or 1 meter and a half, or 50 centimeters,
Okay.
whatever, how much you want to expand it. So this is like the first way of expanding, the more traditional way of upscaling an artwork. Nowadays, with technology, you can just draw like random squiggles on a wall. That people nowadays they call it like the squiggle grid, and you just do scribbles and random lines on a wall, and then you take a photo of that wall, and then you put on a like a Photoshop app, or just any app that you can put one layer over the other, and you can put like one layer to 50% transparency, let's say, and then you can see where all the lights will fall into, and then your main sketch is up there on the wall, proportions are perfect. Then you just need to work by sections, that you kind of section the work on small portions that you can work on a time. And yeah, I don't go up and down all the time to
Yeah.
check if everything is right, but I don't know, at least 2 or 3 times a day, I go down and I step back and I look at it and I see like, okay, maybe I need to adjust contrast here or there, or this line needs to go a bit up. But it's just, yeah,
So
you just work by sections basically.
okay, so you're not using like a projector or something like that.
No, not nowadays. I used to, um, but it's actually it ends up consuming a lot of your time. So,
Mm.
like most of the times, I'm traveling to do these walls, and if I get to a place in the morning and I need to use a projector, I'll lose a whole day of work because I need to wait for a night light. to be able to project, because with sunlight you cannot use a projector.
Okay.
And the doodle grid, it's doodle grid actually.
Okay.
That's how you call it. I said squiggle grid, but it's doodle grid.
Okay.
That's how it's like gaining popularity nowadays. This way of upscaling your artworks to murals.
That is super interesting. You mentioned your dad a little bit earlier, and I know before you traveled to Rotterdam, your dad was saying was asking you what your plans are, and you replied,
Yeah,
you were quoted to reply saying, "I don't really know yet." How did your dad feel about? Because my dad was really into art. He was doing lots of paintings and drawings, and he was always really encouraging me to work in drawing and that. So I'm just sort of wondering, because if I'm imagining my son now, if he was saying to me, "I'm going to go off and to Rotterdam for a while, and I'm not sure what plans I have," I'd be, "Okay, son, you've done your degree. What you going to do?" you know. How was that? How did your dad influence how you felt and your and influence
I
your
don't know. It's
creations?
I
You
think
probably have
me
to
and my
answer
dad,
that.
we have very different
Yeah.
spirits, and this is mainly because of the ways that we were both educated. It's not that we had very different educations, but he had like a special condition in his education, which basically he was raised by his father only because his mom passed away very early, and this already shapes his persona in a way. The fact that he was just raised by my grandfather,
Mm.
I believe. And another thing is he was in the military, and even though we always had we had artists, writers, we always had creative people in our family from his side, especially. Um, so he was used to it, and he had some how can I say, like mindset into this scene. But the fact is, when he was a teenager, still, he joined the army. He did the course for the Portuguese commandos. He became a commando, and to become a commando, it's only a few that get to finish that course and
Mm.
get the beret, and yeah, and you go through a lot of challenges, and I believe this shapes you forever, and, just not just as a person, but it changes your mind, the way you perceive the world, the way you prepare yourself to feel the world.
Mm.
I, for a while, had the thought of going for the military, but it soon faded, and I don't know. I always like my dad. The when I bring the military thing is when my dad is doing something, he makes the plan that if he's going to point B, he plans from A to B how everything is gonna go, and he will try to predict whatever can go wrong, and you will be very very well prepared to do this journey. I'm like, I'm going to point B, and it's gonna be all right. That's my plan, and
Yeah.
that's what I believe. Like for me, I have this belief that I'm here for doing good only. I wish no harm and no wrong to anyone. And I consider myself a good person, and I consider that whatever I do is good. So it should take me good ways. And I just trust that.
Yeah.
Basically. It's not a solid plan, but it's been going well. It's been
Well,
going well.
I think you certainly probably picked up a lot of your dad's determination and discipline, because if anybody out there thinks it's easy being an artist, I think they'll be proved wrong, because I mean your success. Yeah, I read somewhere your success came not easily, but you were once in those early days when you were in Amsterdam or Rotterdam, you had quite a few opportunities and you got picked up on. Um, But I think being an artist, you also have to deal with a lot of knockbacks, right?
Um, I'm starting to deal with them now because when I joined, in a way, I refer to this as joining the game. When I joined the game was flourishing. You know, was very prosper. Uh, Artists were doing very well. The art world was doing very well. The world, in a way, was heading. I think at least it gave us the impression that it was heading in a good way. But nowadays, there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's some sort of recession going on. And art world as a luxury world in a way, um, it gets its setbacks, and I'm feeling it for the first time because until now it's been just smooth sailing. You know, like things have been super well. Like I've been going up, selling, doing very well economically, and now I'm starting to feel like okay, the market's slowing down. I just need to keep up and keep doing nice projects and keep having fun and keep loving the game, and it's all good. But so far, like honestly, the beginning was kind of super easy.
Mm.
It's easy when you make it because you love it. It's already super easy.
Yeah.
And then when things are just flowing, like if you're painting in the rain and if you love it, you don't care that it's raining. You know, if it's freezing and you're painting, some can consider it like yeah, I worked to very like if you're working in construction and it's freezing cold and you're just doing something for someone else and it's not really your thing, it will be hard for you to do it. But if you're painting like one of your pieces and it's super cold, but you really have to do it because otherwise you won't have the time to finish it, you'll just do it and you're not gonna be like crying about it, you know, you're just gonna be proud of yourself that you made it. At least that's how I take it. And that's why I don't feel that I've been through some harsh times or that it's been hard. Like I've worked hard. I have, and I do work hard. I have the conscious of that, but I don't feel that I work hard.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel hard work for me.
yeah,
It's just
it's
I
enjoyable.
do as much as I can, and I sometimes push some limits. I get exhausted. I get mentally. I need to slow down sometimes. But I love it. So it doesn't feel that I'm like doing sacrifice. Like for a lot of people, when they leave their country to live in another country because they're going abroad and looking for better conditions, for a lot of people, just the fact that you're leaving your family, it's a huge sacrifice. For me, it never felt like sacrifice. It was always like easy going. I was very lucky, so I always felt well. I always felt good, and yeah, I I never really experienced um, what can I say? Like hard times in my life. I cannot say that. So yeah,
So I
I've
mean,
been blessed. I'm very happy that I can say this. To be honest, it's a
yeah,
blessing.
I'm good. I'm
Just
happy.
being able to say this is a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, do you have an agent, or do you work a lot on marketing, or is it just literally you work on what you want to do with your paintings and your installations, and then
I, I
galleries
work.
find you, or how does the sort of art world work in that way for you anyway?
Uh, a lot of artists have agents and work with agencies. I've been working solo since ever. I now have like this contract with Underdogs Gallery in Portugal, and
Ah,
it's
yeah,
the only gallery that I've given like oh, how do I say this? It's like in Portugal for gallery works, I can only work with them.
yeah,
So if I'm doing a gallery show in Portugal, they have exclusive rights for my work in Portugal
I understand. Yeah, yeah.
for gallery work, for studio work only. Um, and through them, so they in a way they work as an agency as well because through them I get some job offers and some jobs. And yeah, in a way I can say that I have like Underdogs does some sort of agency work for me, but this is recent. It's since like maybe 2000. 22, I think, that I started really working with them, or 21. But until then, it was just me, and it's still just me. Like I do all my emails, all my marketing, all my social media. I I do the photography sessions to get like the reference shots for my paintings. I paint. I prepare the canvas. I stretch the canvas. I ship the canvas. I photograph the canvas when they're done. I edit the shots. Uh, yeah, I do everything. I do have a bookkeeper, and I just have to bring everything organized to her, and she will find it in. Marketing wise, my girlfriend, she's a marketeer. I do discuss stuff with her, but in the end, it's me doing it always.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
interesting. It's an often overlooked part of the art world, really, I think. Especially these days when you have to make yourself visible amongst all of the noise out there, the technological noise, I guess we could call it. You know,
yeah, I'm so sick of it, to be honest.
yeah,
I've
it
been
becomes a second job almost.
very away from social media. It's like in a way, I think it's me just reacting to the fact that it's social media is just like this messed up game right now. It's just so much disinformation and so much hatred going on there that for me it's hard to keep up with, and also too much like bad imagery from all of these conflicts around the world that it's just very. It's not that I want to disconnect from it, but it's very hard to process all of that.
Yeah, it takes a toll.
I try to not go there all the time, and I've not been so active, mainly with Instagram, which is like the only social media platform that I'm working with. Um, and it's like Instagram did wonders for my career. I cannot say like too bad about it because yeah, that's how like my career in a way, like the snowball started rolling with Instagram.
This episode is brought to you by Flow Sports and Flow Grappling, the streaming platform dedicated for fans of grappling, rugby, basketball, volleyball, swimming, cycling, and much more. If you're into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you'll want to head straight to Flow Grappling. They stream all the major events, IBJJF, ADCC, WNO, and the Pan Ams. And yes, even the IBJJF European Masters, where you could have watched me win gold. Tap the link in the show notes or go to podcastportugal.com to subscribe and get access to all the action. Nuno, I read somewhere that your ultimate dream is to tag the moon. I thought that was really awesome. So where did that idea come from? And do you actually think that you're going to do this? Is there a path to actually getting there?
Um, there was a moment in life I thought it was possible. uh, Not too long ago. Nowadays, I don't know. I don't think much of it in that way. Let's say of actually tag the moon. It's still possible, but it's like a metaphor. And this comes from a Portuguese rap group called Dilemma, and they have this song that they mentioned this. Together we're gonna tag the moon, and yeah, for me, like they were in a way my religion for many years, and their music shaped me in many ways, and this is something I bring with me from them, this will to go beyond what's possible.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some way with lasers to be able to project an image onto the moon. Steve started to get my head thinking now. Maybe
Eventually, it will be possible.
Imagine the
Yeah,
advertising revenue you could get for that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be crazy if someone would make that
I
possible.
know. Well, it's the first time I've ever heard that line, like tagging the moon, and it's got me thinking it's such a good idea. Um,
Uh,
so
but yeah, it's basically a metaphor that comes from a rap group that I cherish a lot, and yeah, they shaped my persona a lot through their music. I've absorbed many of their preaching in a way. I absorbed into myself and into the person that I am today, and it's just something that comes with them.
do you think Portugal as a country, as a place, as a cultural identity, how much do you think this has affected your artistic style development?
Well, a lot, definitely. Because if it wasn't for all this like hip hop movement around me, I wouldn't be dragged into what I am today. I've been I've been through rap as well. I used to rap back in the days. It was like my second element into the hip hop scene. I tried breakdancing. I'm definitely not a good dancer. I enjoy it a lot, but I'm just not good at it. But it's also something I played with. But yeah, from all of them, graffiti is the one that stayed and that I really took it serious. But yeah, definitely this whole movement, which was big part of my teenage times, had a huge impact in shaping my persona, the individual that I am today, for sure.
Hmm. I said one of my friends up in Lisbon. He runs like a group organization called Tapumart, and you reminded me. Yeah, he's getting graffiti artists and rappers and breakdancers from each corner of Portugal, bringing them all together and to creating graffiti battles and rap battles and breakdance battles. Yeah, it looks really cool. I've been watching a few of the videos. It looks a good gathering, good fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I was last year. I was in Brazil, and I felt that vibe that I had like in my early days in Portugal. I felt that they still have this like this boiling water going on there, like they still breed it the same way I was breeding it here back in the days, and I don't see like the same type of activity in within the rap scene in Portugal that I used to see when I was younger, and going to Brazil and seeing them like gathering every, I don't know, I think it was every Wednesday they would gather at Praça, I think it's Praça da Batata, and they would just gather there for doing like street freestyle battles.
hmm.
It's amazing. It was really nice to see that. And then I think it's like every first Friday of the month they will gather to do like sketch battles, and they still breathe hip hop like very heavily there, and it was really really nice to be there and to experience it again, because nowadays like the scene has been, I feel that it lost a lot of heat in a way in Portugal,
Yeah,
at least within my surroundings in Algarve. It's totally uh, quiet. It does not have like the power that it had when I was getting into it. And, the sense of belonging to something that was huge, like at the time I really felt like I belong to this movement. I'm part of it. I'm making it expanding, and this is like the biggest movement ever, and I'm part of it, and I'm an active piece of it. And this was a huge feeling and a great sense of belonging into something.
hmm.
I think nowadays, like the youth, they don't have this. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see the youth with this nerve, and this fire within them. Yeah.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? As we grow older, we always feel a little bit like we sort of look back on our own histories with 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 a
Yeah,
cyber
we
menace,
always like our times were the greatest. That's something like I see this in my parents, and I look at myself a lot, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be like my parents, like judging
Yeah.
the new generations and telling them that they're just whack. You know, that's
Yeah.
it's not like this for sure. But I don't know, and it was great times. It will never be the same, but it was great times.
Wow,
I
it's
don't
good.
know, like
It's good we all have
you
our own
having
happy memories, you know.
stuff like having like a hip hop concert in Corteira and having Sam the Kid. You know, probably heard of him.
Yeah.
Having Sam the Kid coming to perform here. When he goes on stage, the guy who owned the venue was like, "Okay, you're past the time. We're killing the power." So they cut the power. Sam the Kid is not allowed to perform, and he is just coming here.
Ah,
I think like we got him like I don't know. We paid for his bus ticket. He slept on the couch of someone else. You know, it's like to being able to go through these times. It was just amazing, man.
yeah.
Like nowadays, if I want to have Sam the Kid in Cordeiro to perform, he will probably still make a very nice deal because it's Cordeiro and and he knows that I'm like affiliated with his early days and that my friends are his friends and maybe he will get us a nicer deal, but it will still be a costly thing, you know? And for sure, he has the value and he deserves it. But like I don't know, and the the will to make stuff happen at the time was just different. You know, everybody was there just because we wanted to show what we were doing, and we were our own platform. You know, nowadays you have this all these social media platforms that you can just go there and be as loud as you can. You know, and maybe you reach a few dozens of people, a few hundreds of people, few thousands of people, you know, but you're just free to go there and scream, and maybe you'll be caught up.
Yeah. It's a
It's
I
just different times. It's just
social
different times.
media is a weird one. I'm fully
Yeah.
thinking now that with AI, I think most people are going to create some kind of dual personality who will operate their social media. So it'll just be a bunch of AI talking to each other and arguing with
Yeah,
each
yeah,
other,
yeah.
and we'll just
For
be
sure.
free.
For sure.
For what purpose? I don't. No, I do have a philosophy. I do have an idea on that. I think basically it's social media is like a way that the accelerated AI learns about human beings, and it's learning about human beings in a very weird way. And I think it's just absorbing all of this data, and I think it's going to come back and bite us one day for sure. Uh,
Um, it's likely. It's likely. I don't know, but it's likely. Yeah. I think I hope we will always have the control of the on and off switch.
hmm.
That's our own security.
I believe
It's the
maybe it's
fact that
going to give us more
we have
freedom.
the on and off switch. If we lose control of the on and off switch, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll just be computer servants
yeah,
in the future.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's how to keep
But
ownership of it, isn't it? I mean, in an ideal utopia, we would send a duplicate of us, an android, out to do the work for us, and we would then take part in all the recreation. That would be the utopia. Uh,
that would be crazy. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
anyway, it's kind of like that anyway, but it's like, how do you retain individual control over that? Because why would you need to create? Why would a company employ a duplicate of you when they could just make multiple duplicates of exactly what they want?
Yeah,
I
also,
spent too
yeah,
much
yeah.
time thinking about this crap.
But I don't know, and if we make things too perfect, I don't know. I think it loses purpose. You know, like I think life is meant to be imperfect, and
Mm,
business is meant to be imperfect. Everything is meant to be imperfect because then it brings challenge, and challenge makes you feel alive in a way. You know.
good point.
Um, One thing is, yeah, like I'm not saying that war is nice and it's a good challenge to go through war and all this trauma. Definitely not. But it's good to have some resistance in life, like that not everything just runs smooth. We need some triggers to make sure that we're alive and living and feeling everything. If everything is perfect, I don't know. I think that the purpose is gone, or I don't know. Living, the act of living is gone if everything is perfect, I think.
Yeah, it's right. I think we are human beings, our ancestry. We need to have a little bit of resistance.
Yeah, for sure.
For
For
sure.
sure.
It's
Not too much,
definitely.
like no one should go through tremendous hardship and suffering. For sure not. For sure not. But
Yeah,
just a little bit of it. It's good, I think.
yeah, yeah. For sure. These days, it's the mental challenge. It's the challenge of trying to understand what is truth. Um,
Yeah.
that
For
is.
me, it's definitely my biggest struggle. Is to navigate like the how mankind is doing so much, are being so mean and so bad to each other.
And we don't even know if that's just amplified for algorithms or whether it is. How many of those individuals are actually bots stirring up the pot? It's
Oh
just
man, that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. That
it's too
that is
much,
on
isn't it?
social media. That part is crazy. Like people arguing with just a bot, just a computer. It's insane, man.
Yeah. And it's probably another bot arguing with another bot. We don't even know. And I read the
Sometimes, sure, yeah.
I find myself reading comments and looking through, scrolling through, and I just trying to understand who is a bot and who's not. And some of the things are very. I find it quite amusing. I come from an old generation where we had a saying like "sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt me." So so I find it quite funny when people are just being so mean to each other online. I find it amusing. It's some classic.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, it's hard. It's hard to go through some of that stuff because I don't know, man. I just get like all this hatred and negativity coming up, and it just feels wrong. Yeah,
Well,
it
as
just feels.
as an artist, it's kind of confusing because traditionally in the art world, as you absorb what's going on in your moment, in your generation, on many different levels, political, emotional, environmental, and an artist is being known to be societal responsibility to take that and to create something that people have affinity with and can sort of read w- a truth, a bigger truth of what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I've always tried as an artist. I've always tried to stay away from politics and from all this political discourse, and try to stay away from picking sides in a way, or at least publicly as Nuno Viegas, the artist.
Mm,
Like I've been trying to stay away from picking sides, but I think nowadays it's impossible. But my art practice was never about politics, or it never had like a political agenda, or even though I'm definitely more leaning towards the left side of politics,
mm,
like I've never made that come through within my work. Like all I've been talking about is the graffiti universe, and that's like all the stories go around that. You know,
mm.
but nowadays I'm like, no, man, like maybe I really need to start talking about all this stuff that is deeply bothering me.
Yeah, yeah. It should
But yeah,
serve
it's
serve as
hard.
an
It's hard.
inspiration, but just as long as it is true what's going on, what the messages are. Like, how do you digest something that just might be just a lot of bullshit? Um, I think it's
Well,
very
yeah,
difficult.
for that, I don't know. At least on the topics that really, really bother me, I just, I educate myself about them,
Yeah.
and I read and I go beyond the news and the 5-second segments of videos on social media, and I read and I see full articles and I see full documentaries, not just portions of it, and I try to educate myself and always try to get like both sides of the history and try to understand, okay, where this side was lying and where that side was lying, so I can get as much refined truth as possible. But in the end, it's always what I perceived as truth.
Yeah. Do you think it?
But yeah,
Do you
I
think you
do
can
try to
feel it?
educate myself
Do you
on
think you
subjects
just
that.
basically feel it? Do you have a belief that as a person, you know deep inside whether something is true or not, whether it is intentionally good or bad? Do you have that feeling, that internal feeling you can rely on, or um,
Yeah, definitely. Like for me, it's just there's something that is right and there is something that is wrong, and no matter what's your excuse to kill thousands and thousands of children, for me, there's no justification for that.
exactly?
Like it's just wrong. It's wrong.
That's the line that's drawn.
If your goal is to kill, I don't know, 10 specific, very specific persons, for me, you either kill those 10 persons or you don't kill anyone.
Mm.
It's not, you don't go and start killing indiscriminately because in the middle of all those thousands of people, you wanted to kill 10 folks. No, for me, that doesn't work. That's wrong.
Is that term collateral damage for me is
No,
just such a
it,
crazy
it's
term. It's so removed. It's absent of
the
feeling.
same way, the same way I find it wrong for you to kill random people just because you're mad at someone else.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's I don't
Yeah, how
know.
you can
It's
group everybody.
I can find evil even in the sides that sometimes I support, and I can find stuff that it's been done wrongly, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We are technologically super advanced to be killing people this way
Yeah, I
nowadays.
agree. It's a good
For
point.
me, it's just yeah, it's just wrong, and yeah, that for me sets my compass. If
Mm.
especially when it comes to children, now that I'm a father, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's just what it is. It's wrong. It's
I,
wrong.
f- I, d-
No matter what your side is, if you're killing children, you're wrong.
yeah.
Yeah,
I find it just so unbelievable that it's not like a football match. You don't have two defined sides. You have two geographically grouped, in some cases, not even geographically grouped peoples, each with their own ideas. I saw something really interesting in the Israeli parliament the other day. There was the guy speaking, I don't even remember, Netanyahu
yeah,
speaking, and there was a whole bunch of in the Israeli government that was shouting him down and saying, "You're wrong. We should not be doing this." And so it's like, how do you understand nuance within the groups? And if you're just blanket bombing or airstrikes or whatever, and killing, you could be killing people that actually agree with you. It's like
for sure, for sure, it
I
will
don't
happen.
understand it.
It will happen. But when your moral compass is, I don't care
Yeah.
as long as I attain my objectives. Like yeah,
It's a power.
yeah, I don't
There
know.
is a power
Yeah,
that groups people. I think that is very interesting to me. Takes a
I,
lot of
I really don't
individuals
understand the
and
why, to be
groups them.
honest. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Well,
don't
is
know.
it?
It's very, very, very messed up and hard to understand how can someone be so evil
Yeah.
these days. Um,
Well, I think the majority of us think like you and I. I think the majority of the world think like you and I. But sometimes if you look at social media, you think, oh, maybe they don't because they are so easily grouped. I can agree with bits and pieces from both sides, or I can disagree with bits and pieces from both sides quite easily. It's not that I'm sitting on the fence. Well, I know I am sitting on the fence really because I don't know enough, or um,
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
or I'm. It's very complicated. It's such a complicated world that we live in, and
I think that the worst of all is that mankind is more divided now than it has ever been.
yeah,
I think, and that's the most worrying of all. It's not just, of course, like these conflicts are very bad and direct, with direct consequences happening now. But all this hatred and division that is happening within humanity, I think it will be very, very bad for us on the long run. And for me, it's like basic, like almost instinct to understand that divide and conquer is just a way of getting stuff done, you know? And how can we be fooled? Like for me, this is very like yeah, it's very hard to digest this. How can we be fooled and be allowed to be fighting against each other over immigrants and blah blah blah? Like
Hmm.
that's not the problem, dude. Like, come on, man. They're just putting us against each other. Let's not fall for that, you know?
Yeah. And we are the majority as
Yeah.
well, which is surprising for
Yeah.
me. That the majority we allow ourselves to be convinced. Well, some of us don't, but we're supposed to
It's
vote for these people, but that's why I don't believe necessarily in democracy, because I just don't think we actually really vote for these things.
yeah, it's
It's a
questionable.
Yeah,
It's
technology would
questionable
definitely come in there. If you imagine, if we could, if say if Portugal gets embroiled in some conflict, say if uh, the Portuguese government, for whatever reasons, decides that they're going to join Israel and start to take action against Iran, a complete hypothetical um, theory
fuck
here.
no.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but they could decide to do that, but we
yeah.
didn't vote for it. So how does that work? But technology, you could actually put it to the people and say, okay, look, we have this decision to make. We need to do this for this reason or that for that reason. Be completely transparent, and then let the people vote on it. Because then that's true democracy. At the moment, we seem to vote on personalities, but we don't seem to vote on any policies. And to vote every 4 years or whatever it is, it doesn't seem to me to make much sense, because at the moment, politicians can get into power. They can lie all the way up to the time they're voted in. And then as soon as they become in office, they do the opposite. Or they never do what they say they're going to do or whatever. So
I
democracy
believe
is
that
defunct.
society should be ran much more based in referendums and with much more input from the civil society for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, we just play the ball one time and then it's up to them for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair, but that's the system we have going on now. Eventually, it will have to change. So we'll see. I don't know, but if it comes to the time that our government starts doing stuff that we didn't vote it for, the only option we have is to go outside and protest.
Yeah.
So far, we can still do that, and we should definitely
And we
make
should
use of that right
and we should protect that right. Protect the right of freedom of speech, freedom of
for sure.
art, freedom of freedom of our voices. I think that is super important. This is what scares
And
me.
if that right gets cut off, you'll have graffiti writers going out and risking it, not just for fun, but now with a bigger motive, for sure.
Yeah. But graffiti in many cases before perhaps it became more part of urban culture and in history, it played a big part in political discourse. There
For
was
sure, for sure. And nowadays, it can still be used as a tool of rebellion. You know,
yeah,
for sure. I don't feel, at least not in Portugal, it's not being used that way. But at any time, it can be switched, and people can start going out and making these statements out loud uh,
it's
against
very powerful.
whatever authoritarian, whatever system that is out there. The risk will be bigger, but some of these folks, they're hardly trained for this. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I probably most of the listeners, if we're not too much up on the urban graffiti scene and this kind of thing, probably the one and only maybe graffiti artist we might have even heard of, possibly a lot of people, would be Banksy. And his imagery is very strong and very political, a lot of the time. So it has a power. It definitely has a power.
for sure,
Thank
for
God.
sure. I wouldn't nowadays. I wouldn't put Banksy in the graffiti box.
Okay.
I would put it somewhere in the street art, urban art box, but not on the graffiti box. Even though he still has a lot from graffiti roots, but yeah, I wouldn't put it in the graffiti box for sure.
Okay.
The same way, like Nuno Viegas is not in the graffiti box.
Yeah.
What I do is not graffiti. I come from this environment. These are my roots. I talk about it. But whatever I do, even if it's a mural painting, it's something else, but definitely not graffiti. Graffiti, as I said in the beginning of this conversation, for me, it's still a very basic um, thing, which is writing your name and spreading it as much as you can with as much style as you can. That's for me as simple as that. If we want to start carving graffiti in history books, for me personally, that's how we should go in there. It's all about style writing and writing your name everywhere.
I was gonna.
After that, after that, you will have other movements and other stuff like street art, or like some people call it urban art, urban contemporary. Whatever name that box will have, it's already another one with sometimes linked with graffiti, some other times totally not linked with graffiti.
So do you think like graffiti comes from like a rebellious standpoint where there is no understanding of the reason for graffiti? And then as you mature, the urban art is then more considered. There is more of a political or a visual thought behind it, more of a philosophy behind the image. Do you think that could be assumed?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Like when I look at me, Nuno Viegas, as an artist, everything I do is legal. It has how can I say? Yeah, it has a platform behind it that is legit, and everything is just it's all right, you know. But when we're talking about graffiti, a lot of it is not all right. um, but yeah, I don't know. A lot of my colleagues from my practice as a muralist nowadays, they're not even linked with the graffiti scene. So they've never painted graffiti before. You know, they never painted letters. They never painted characters. They were never into graffiti. They're just artists who paint murals, and that's fine. You know, like they don't have to have a link with graffiti, and they don't have to have the feeling that they have to have a link with graffiti. You know, it's unfair. It's some weight that they just don't have to have it. It's something else, and uh, they belong here as much as anyone else. You know, it's not because they never painted graffiti that they're less than any other street artist. You know, and people tend to be like, oh no, this guy is a real one because he used to do graffiti. It's like
Mhm.
it's two different things, man. Don't get it twisted. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like a comparison would be if you were a gangster rapper and then you weren't a gangster or something like that, right? That you're saying that you don't need, you can still
Yeah,
be a
so, some
rapper,
people try to
but you
put it
don't
in
need
that
to.
way, but it's like you're just a rapper, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
you don't
might
need
talk
to say
about gangster stuff, but
it.
yeah, then you should only push the boundaries that you're allowed to.
Yeah, yeah,
I like to keep graffiti very simple and respect the roots of just style writing, you know.
yeah.
Also because graffiti is it's a media name. Like many movements, they get named by the media because the media wants to talk about it, and they need a label for this.
A
And
group. We're getting
graffiti
into our
is the
groups
label.
again.
Graffiti is the label that the media got for this movement. You know, if it would be named by the people who started all this, it would possibly have another name. And for what I heard, like style writing would be one of them. You
Mm,
know, and this would already take you in a very specific direction because it's about writing and it's about style. It's not about like painting characters, whatever, whatever. You know, it's about style writing.
okay.
And graffiti is a much more broader thing, you know. Style writing already points you in a very specific way. So yeah, I think we should just respect the roots and appreciate what we got from there and be proud of whatever movement we're part of it today, and that we're contributing for it and making it bigger than ever. So let's just get our own label for this.
Yeah, nice.
Uh,
So I get change the tack a little bit, and we're going to talk about the recent trip, because I think when we were first talking, you were off to California
yes,
to exhibit at the I've forgotten the
you have Angels at ThinkSpace Gallery
yes,
in
the
Los Angeles. Yeah.
ThinkSpace. Yeah, how was that? How did they get in contact with you, and how many pieces did you take over, and was there particular ones that they wanted, or how did that all work
Uh,
out?
we Well, we've been introduced in person for the first time by a colleague of mine, an artist from Rotterdam named Kylie Smith. He introduced me to Andrew, who's the owner of ThinkSpace Gallery, when I was in Miami in 2000, I don't know, 17 or something. This was the first time we met in person, but only a couple of years later, we started working together, if I'm not wrong. And I started doing small shows with them because in a way, I ran into their network. So I became part of their network because I was in the same shows as their artists were. I was working with the same galleries that their artists were, with the same publishers. And well, they noticed my name, and eventually they were like, okay, let's do something. And I started doing smaller shows with them. With the pandemics, I did my first solo show with them. It was a smaller solo show. I had like 8 pieces back then. It went super well. And then we've been planning this show for like 3 years already, and we kept postponing it. And we finally made it. But it was great. It was really nice to go there, to go to Los Angeles, visit the city for the first time. It's an historical city with huge input within the hip hop scene, which is something that I breathe a lot.
Mm.
So it was really, really nice to go there and to visit Los Angeles. And it was really nice to visit the gallery in person after working with them for so many years already. Um, but the show itself, as I said, like the market is not like thriving as it was a few years ago, and the show itself didn't went super well. So sales wise, it wasn't great, but it was still a great show. I'm very proud of the body work that I produced for this show. It's a body work that talks about fatherhood
Nice.
and kind of blends my past as a graffiti writer and my days nowadays as a father, and it talks about all of this relationship and fatherhood. And yeah, I'm very proud of each and every piece that I painted for that show. It's just it wasn't the perfect timing, let's say, to do a solo show, such a big solo show. It was
Mm.
18 pieces, I think.
Wow.
It was quite a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
So yeah, on the economical side, it wasn't as good as I was expecting, but for the rest, it was great. It was a really nice opening. It was super nice to be there to meet the whole team of ThinkSpace, spend time with them, to meet LA. It was epic, still for me. You know?
Great. Yeah,
So
it looked like
I'm still very happy that it happened.
yeah, it looked amazing, really. And we're gonna probably wrap it up soon, if that's all right with you, Nuno. And what I'm gonna do in the show notes of the podcast, I'm gonna leave your website, which is nunovegas.pt. That'll be a link in the show notes. You can go and see what Nuno is getting up to. You can see examples of his work, of installations, galleries, read some articles on his work, and find out a lot more. And Nuno, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really cool chat. Fascinating to talk to you about all the stuff that's going on in the world.
Well, thank you for your time and for considering me for your podcast. And
Thank you.
good luck with it.
Yeah, it's
goes
growing
well for
crazy.
you.
It's going crazy, actually. I'm getting about 500-600 people subscribing every month. So if I keep on this trajectory,
that's amazing.
then
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. It's just nice to be able to talk long form with people, get to know people, and increase your network, and to help them have a voice, help me have a voice, and to talk about important things and really get to know people. That's why I kind of like also to do it simply audio. You're just either speaking or listening. There is no other signals going on.
Exactly. Yeah. No more distraction.
Yeah. Nuno, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Likewise, man. Thank you. Good luck.
Yeah, you too. Good luck. Much success. You deserve it. Love your stuff. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal, signing out. Ditch the plastic and the toxins. Mother's Earth dishwasher papers are made from non-toxic, eco-certified materials, so they're safer for your home, your health, your family, and the planet. No bulky plastic bottles, no waste, just clean dishes, shipped anywhere in Europe, and 3 times cheaper than those toxic tabs you buy in the supermarkets. Click the link in the show notes to start saving. I need to concentrate, stop the strain of thoughts or hours.